Hi everyone, it's me, and today let's discover Stephen King's universe together. Let's go!
If you thought Deadpool being Ernest Hemingway was one of the most off-the-wall theories on the channel, well get ready, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. What if I told you that 2017's biggest horror movie is the lost sequel to 2018's biggest kids movie? Yup, Pennywise and Wrinkle in Time are connected. Now, I can already see you furrowing your brows through the screen, impatient for some kind of explanation. Well, get ready, because in the words of Oprah,
Be a warrior.
I will be a warrior, Oprah, and an explanation I shall deliver unto you. You get an explanation, and you get an explanation, and you get an explanation. Everybody gets an explanation! Internet, welcome to Film Theory.
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory. Hi.
The show that proves that the fastest way from point A to point B isn't a line, but rather a theory that teleports you straight through the plot holes. Ladies and gentlemen, leave your Botox at home for this one, because A Wrinkle in Time looks pretty darn awesome. And I'll be lining up with the other 90s nerdy kids to relive my dreams of folding space-time to save the world. Today, though, we're not here to talk about magical centaurs or the folding science of the fifth dimension. No, sir! Today we're talking about something else, or should I say someone else. Someone else who you may be familiar with.
Stephen King.
Someone else who literally wrote his books and movies into the same fictional universe as A Wrinkle in Time. Hit the snooze button for your androids and drive right past that hitchhiker, because I'm not talking about any of those sci-fi hotshots. No, sir. Today we're talking Stephen King. And I know you're like, that's it. Matt Pat's a couple nuts short of a fruitcake. I'm not buying it. And I honestly was super skeptical of this idea at first too, but the more I looked into it and the more research I did, the more it became unquestionably clear that Stephen King's universe is built around the Wrinkle in Time universe. And
Stephen King's universe.
You can actually trace the connections between them across no less than 6 books and movies. So, are you ready to see how it's done? By the time I'm done with you today, you're not gonna know what's rated R horror from what's rated G sci-fi. Which, come to think of it, will probably be horrendously traumatic for your children. Now, before we can set up our little connected universe conspiracy, it's important that we know what actually happens in A Wrinkle in Time. If you haven't read the book, and since this is coming out before the movie, this is your chance to avoid major spoilers. If I really have to give those kinds of things for a story that was written back in the 1960s and that practically all of us have read at some point between the grades of 4 and 7. Anyway,
so think about it, this has been more than 60 years, I think? 50 plus years. Yeah. Sorry, spoilers.
this is your spoiler alert for the book, so just time travel your way back to this point in the episode after you read it. Alright, you back? Great. The story is about Meg and her brother Charles Wallace, who are both super smart kids, but Charles Wallace has bonus mind-reading abilities where he can see his sister's and mom's thoughts. A little creepy, and hopefully he loses that ability for his sister when she hits puberty, but whatever, we're gonna go with it. Their father has mysteriously gone missing, and the whole story is about how they find and rescue him from across space-time. They do this when Charles Wallace befriends a mysterious old woman who lives in the woods. Public service announcement, by the way, do not do this. Lo and behold, creepy old forest lady just so happens to be an interplanetary shapeshifter named Mrs. Whatsit. And no, I didn't forget her name, that's just what she goes by. So, Mrs. Whatsit, along with her 2 interplanetary shapeshifter friends, Mrs. Who and Mrs. Which, whisk the 2 kids and Meg's pseudo-boyfriend Calvin through space to find the kid's father.
So, let's just get straight. Their names is what, who, which.
Travel faster than the speed of light using something called a tesseract. In science, tesseracts are basically a cube inside of a cube that you can do all kinds of super advanced math with. In A Wrinkle in Time, it basically makes it so you can fold up space-time and just hop across the fold to different parts of the universe.
Interesting. So it's something like Marvel's universe in which Loki, Thanos, they can travel from one point to another point. Something like Infinity Stones, right?
So the kids and the old lady brigade fold time so they can travel into space. After some planet hopping, they land on a dark planet consumed by a dark force, which the galactic witches lazily call the Black Thing. Really creative naming system in this book. Meg's dad happens to be fighting the Black Thing, and it's the kids' job to save him. In their journey, they have to confront the Black Thing, which controls people's minds and makes everyone a drone. Charles Wallace, with his special mind powers, is able to rescue their father, but then gets himself hypnotized by the Black Thing, and Meg has to save him through the power of love. Well, in addition to that being more than enough information to write your 5th grade book report, there are a few things in there that should probably be sounding a bit familiar, like Stephen King familiar. In fact, I'm here to tell you that the closer you look at this story, the more you're gonna start to feel like maybe our buddy Stevie did a little creative borrowing and made a few pretty key parts of his universe match A Wrinkle in Time in ways that are a little too on the nose to be an accident. Point number 1, let's start by looking at the main antagonist of A Wrinkle in Time, shall we? In the book, it's just referred to as the Black Thing, at least until it's referred to by another name, It. For everywhere she looked, everywhere she turned was the rhythm. And as it continued to control the systole and diastole of her heart, the intake and outlet of her breath, the red miasma began to creep before her eyes again, and she was afraid that she was going to lose consciousness. And if she did that, she would be completely in the power of It. There it is, clear as crystal, capital I, capital T, It. And this isn't the only time they use it in the book either. It is used consistently throughout the novel. Now, I know what you're thinking. The It in Stephen King's It is a clown named Pennywise with great balloons and really bad teeth, where It in A Wrinkle in Time doesn't seem to be especially clowny. It's more telepathic, pulsating, brainy. But in reality, the way we see both of these guys in the movies aren't really what they look like. In both cases, It represents pure evil energy or darkness. The way we see them in the movie is just the form that they happen to be taking at the time. I mean, just look at Pennywise in the new movie. He shapeshifts from a clown to a leper to a girl who just loves her flute a bit too much. Meanwhile, It in A Wrinkle in Time goes between black smoke to pulsating brain to a guy with red eyes that hypnotizes Charles Wallace. So we know that both of these villains represent the same thing. They can both change shapes at will, and on top of that, they're both from a galaxy far, far away.
Something like Star Wars, right?
With The Wrinkle in Time's It coming from a distant planet, and Stephen King's It coming from his macroverse.
Far, far away, get it?
A dimension beyond the one that houses Earth. But the parallels don't end there. Point number 2. In both stories, It possesses the power of mind control. In Wrinkle in Time, it's really obvious mind control, where literally everyone is plugged into the same brain and bounces the same basketballs and eats the same mac and cheese. In Stephen King's It, the force of mind control is more subtle, but it's still definitely there. No adults leave dairy despite the child murder rate being massively inflated. It is also able to control the mind of Derry's bully, Henry Bowers. Which leads us to point number 3. The methods the kids use in A Wrinkle in Time to fight It are awfully similar to the Ritual of Chewed from Stephen King's It. Now, you don't really find the Ritual of Chewed in the newest movie, but if you're interested, I talk about it a lot more over on the last Pennywise theory I did. Let me just say this. The novel sets it up as this massive psychic battle of wills where the kids defeat It by refusing to be afraid. Instead, they show confidence, humor, all very non-afraid emotions, and It can't touch them as a result. This looks mighty familiar if you're gonna end up watching A Wrinkle in Time this weekend, where self-assuredness and refusing to give into fear is actually what saves Calvin and Charles Wallace from the man with red eyes.
True. So please remember to have positivity and just stay confidence. Thank you so much.
One of its various forms. To resist him, Charles Wallace starts spouting off nursery rhymes. Calvin recites the Gettysburg Address, which, when you actually stop to think about it, is yet another weird parallel considering Bill Denborough, the stuttering leader of the Losers Club, finds strength to defeat Pennywise by reciting his tongue twisters.
His fists against the posts, and still insists he sees the ghosts.
And if that's still not enough for you, both versions of It also have a weakness to love. It's true. I mean, think back to the end of the 2017 version of It, where Bev is stirred from her catatonic state when Ben kisses her. Stephen King may have had a little help in that moment from a really similar moment in A Wrinkle in Time, where Meg snaps Charles Wallace out of It's spell, not by kissing him, thankfully, because they're brother and sister, but by telling him how deeply she loves him. Similar plot points are similar.
Similar plot points are similar, and thank you so much for being so wholesome. family friendly. Thank you.
Point number 4. Charles Wallace in A Wrinkle in Time appears to have psychic powers with the exact same abilities as Stephen King's Shine ability, just like Danny Torrance in The Shining, and as I said in my last It theory, The Losers Club. Early on in A Wrinkle in Time, Meg notices that her little brother can apparently read her mind. Quote, how did Charles Wallace always know about her? How could he always tell? It was his mother's mind, and Meg's that he probed with frightening accuracy. End quote. Charles Wallace in the book can also sense the evil presence of the man with red eyes before he ever sees him, correctly predicting that the man is trying to get at him and into his brain. And it's not just Charles Wallace. When the gang finally does run into the man who uses no Visine, Meg realizes that he's talking to them without moving his mouth or lips at all, and is instead communicating directly into their brains. Quote again, I've been waiting for you, my dears, the man said. His voice was kind and gentle, not at all the cold and frightening voice Meg had expected. It took her a moment to realize that though the voice came from the man, he had not opened his mouth or moved his lips at all, that no real words had been spoken to fall upon her ears, that he had somehow communicated directly into their brain.
What? Directly into their brains? Okay.
End quote. Now let's take a moment to revisit Dick Halloran from The Shining, as he defines what Shine ability is.
My grandmother and I could hold conversations entirely without ever opening our mouths. She called it shining.
Wow. Telepathic communication would be one thing, but it doesn't stop there. If you watched my film theory on it, you know that Shining tends to be linked to childhood trauma. Dick Halloran and Danny Torrance in The Shining were both abused by their families. The Losers Club are bullied for being fat, Jewish, a girl, having a stutter, etc. And now look at Meg and Charles Wallace from Wrinkle in Time. Two kids who have both had to deal with the unexplained disappearance of their father. I mean, even Kid 3, Kelvin in A Wrinkle in Time, is established to have a physically abusive mother. All the pieces are there. The kids, the telepathic powers, the origin story. Of course, if A Wrinkle in Time truly takes place in the same universe as it, that means it's really taking place in the Stephen King multiverse, which would imply that these two universes share the same mechanics. Enter point number 5. In both the Wrinkle in Time universe and the Stephen King multiverse, characters can travel outside their own reality while stopping time. When Meg worries that everyone at home will be looking for her and Charles Wallace while they go planet hopping, Mrs. Whatsit assures her that she's created a little wrinkle in time, roll credits, saying, quote, we'll have
no editor's
you
note.
back about 5 minutes before you left, so there'll be time to spare and nobody will ever know that you were gone at all, end quote. This sort of freezing of time while characters explore other planets and timelines fits the same rules as the time portal in Stephen King's novel 11/22/63. In that book, a man discovers a portal that takes him back in time to 1958, and regardless of how long he stays in the past, when he returns to the present, only 2 minutes have passed. I should also mention that in both A Wrinkle in Time and 11/22/63, the characters are able to affect the events of their timeline. The Murray children manage to bring their father back even though they end up going back in time, and the actions performed in the past in 11/22/63 don't change the time that you arrive, but they do change the kind of world that you arrive back in, for good or bad. In this case, the main character Jake Epping discovers this fact when he comes back to a nuclear holocaust. Word! And oh yeah, if you're wondering whether 11/22/63 is part of the Stephen Kingiverse, well then rest your pretty little heads, my friends. Jake Epping visits Derry, Maine, and visits Beverly Marsh and Richie Trozer during his journey. Now, some of you still might be skeptical. Stephen King's multiverse and A Wrinkle in Time both share a lot of sci-fi elements and themes because, well, they're both sci-fi books. Duh. But what about the similarities that are a bit too close to write off as a mere coincidence? Things that can only match up because they're in the same canon. For instance, point number 6. In chapter 6 of A Wrinkle in Time, it's revealed that the 3 Mrs. W's were all once stars that have taken human form to act as the 3 guides for the children. Quote, the true Mrs. Whatsit, Meg realized, was beyond human understanding. What
Beyond human understanding.
she saw was only the game Mrs. Whatsit was playing. I didn't mean to tell you, Mrs. Whatsit faltered. I didn't mean ever to let you know, but oh my dears, I did so love being a star. Now, that's a pretty specific and unique concept. Stars that can take human shape and vice versa. And yet, the Stephen Kingiverse has got this one too. In chapter 11 of Dark Tower 3, The Wastelands, we hear the story of Apon, Lydia, and Cassiopeia, 3 ancient figures who become stars. Quote, before time began, Old Star and Old Mother had been young and passionate newlyweds. Then one day they had a terrible argument. Old Mother, who in those long ago days had been known by her real name, which was Lydia, had caught Old Star, whose real name was Apon, hanging out with a beautiful young woman named Cassiopeia. In the end, the gods had to step in so Apon and Lydia might not, in their anger, destroy the universe. Cassiopeia had been banished to a rocking chair made of stars forever and ever. Apon and Lydia are 3 billion years gone. They've become Old Star and Old Mother, the North and South, each pining for the other but both now too proud to beg for reconciliation. End quote. So humans as stars and stars as humans. If it wasn't getting weirdly similar before, now you should be really feeling those dots get connected. But perhaps the fundamental idea that made A Wrinkle in Time so unique in literature was the concept of moving through realities instantaneously, the concept of the Tesseract. And yet, try as I might to find it, it's
Tesseract. The Infinity Stone, Space
a
Stone.
word that Stephen King's multiverse doesn't mention once. So, is this where the theory dies? Well, point number 7. The Stephen King multiverse has Tesseracting. In the Dark Tower series, certain characters are able to travel through time and space by using what's called Todash. Todash space is the void between universes, and characters can travel through it to reach other worlds instantaneously. Going
Wow.
Todash, though, is very dangerous. It's possible to get stuck between worlds in the Todash darkness, where the monsters dwell. Meanwhile, Mrs. Whatsit describes Tesseracting as making a connection between two faraway things in a way that bypasses the distance between them. Quote, well, the 5th dimension's a tesseract. You add that to the other 4 dimensions and you can travel through space without having to go the long way around. A straight line is not the shortest distance between 2 points. It's literally finding the wrinkles in space-time and passing through the empty space they create, exactly the way that Todash is described.
Wow, so you're trying to say that they actually tried doing something like space travel, I think? Oh, Einstein's Rosen Bridge. So it's like something like that, right?
So yeah, the terms are different, except for the whole concept of it that we covered for the first 3 points of this theory. And yes, they may be used for different purposes, but it is clear that both Stephen King's multiverse and A Wrinkle in Time share the same physical wonders, the same kinds of powers, and even the same quantum mechanics. So who knows? It certainly seems like Wrinkle in Time has all the trappings of being the lost Stephen King Dark Tower novel, even though it came out like 30 years before the first one of those. It's kind of like a children's Dark Tower for beginners. And if so, think of what craziness this sort of connected universe would deliver to us. This is the true origin story of it, the origin of Pennywise. And heck, maybe It Chapter 2 will finally be able to feature Oprah in the role that she was born to play, Maturin the Cosmic Turtle. You know what? A theorist can dream. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And Tesseract. And while you're floating your way through that Todash space, make sure that you teleport your way through that subscribe button, so that way you can see what other weird film franchise crossovers we come up with in future theories. And in case you missed it, the button to the right will take you to that Pennywise theory I mentioned earlier. How the Losers Club all secretly shine. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to go wrinkle my way to the nearest lunch location, because I am hungry. See you next week!
See you next time! Thank you so much for watching this video. That's a very interesting and very unique perspective of the video. Well, yeah, I hope that you find this video very interesting to watch together with me. And if you do like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have anything to share with us. Don't forget to follow my channel. I sincerely appreciate all the support and encouragement for me. Very uplifting and motivating for me to continue doing this with your encouragement. And yeah, your gratefulness and your positivity is just awesome. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you all in my next video. But hey, that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye! Once again, thank you so much. Do remember to subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!